44, you are listening to the mid-morning talk on Salam Media, and we apologize for the slight delay due to load shedding. But yeah, all systems go, and the show must go on. It is Arbor Week in South Africa. In fact, it's Arbor Day, but because we are South Africans, we like to do things a little bit extra. That's why we have Arbor Week. South Africa celebrates Arbor Week in the first of September annually, and the Department of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development, as the custodian of forestry in South Africa, is responsible for the campaign. So the aim for Arbor Week is not just to plant trees and to celebrate a new month and a new season, but also to learn about Arbor Week. It's also to learn about trees. It's also to learn about forestry, understanding everything that goes on, and understanding the world around us. You know, we always hear things about, urban jungle, concrete jungle, etc., etc. And when we think about jungle, we all just think about, the forests. We think about animals. We think about large trees, etc., etc. And all of that is slowly deteriorating because of deforestation and global warming and everything else that comes into play. And we are basically losing out on all of that. We have to do something. We have to stop and make the necessary changes. Anyways, joining me right now is Tim Neary, who is a nature conservationist, also from CSI, to talk about the importance and understanding of the day and what we can do about that. Let us find out more. Good morning, Tim.
Morning. Are you well this morning? There we go. Are we loud and clear on your side?
Yes, so we
Excellent.
are. All systems go. So,
Excellent.
what is the importance of Arbor Day or Arbor Week?
I think the importance is to bring across to people trees, what trees do for us. There's a wonderful word that we use, which is ecosystem services. And it's to understand that trees are not just there to provide oxygen. You know, the majority of the oxygen, in fact, on the planet comes out of the sea. Some 80 odd percent of it is produced by the ocean. But the trees and the grasses and everything else around us, anything really that's green, is doing a twofold thing. It's producing oxygen, which we really enjoy. And then it's taking carbon out of the atmosphere. And it's taking that carbon and storing it as timber in the trees. But to understand that trees are a lot more. Trees, as long as man has been around the planet, and I guess before man, trees have been around, and people have held court under trees. So there have been storytelling under trees. There have been the traditional healers who use the trees. People have used trees for all sorts of things, building material, for example, producing wagons, producing tools. There's an endless supply of what trees, in fact, do for us. And Arbor Week is really not just about the tree, but it's about the planet. And I think one of the misconceptions that we always have is that we as humans are going to save the planet. Well, this great big ball that we live on really doesn't need us, does it? And it's a bit arrogant to think that we are going to save the planet. What we really got to look at is how does man and the planet continue our existence together? And trees are one of the integral parts of that. Whatever we do, we can't get away from trees. Even in a desert, I guess when we look at the deserts, the older deserts and the early deserts, many of them, in fact, were lush forests. You go down to the Western Cape and you go down to the diamond areas of that sort of Noop Kleinzee area. And as your excavator digs right down into the bottom, into the bedrock where the
Sound. All right, Tim. So while we're excited about the new season and Arbor Week, we still need to understand a few things like forestry. So please explain to us what is indigenous forests, metropolitan forests, and commercial forests, and how do they differ from one another? Tim, I think I have lost sound. I can't hear you. No, still cannot hear you. I'm not sure what the reason could be at this moment. We've lost sound with Tim over there. I can't hear him. But if you have any comments about Arbor Day, or you would like to share your message for this day and this week, please send them to us. We would love to hear it. And you can do so by going to our WhatsApp line 061 Alternatively, you can send them to us on Facebook. We are on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
And household supplies. Penny Appeal South Africa is currently on the ground working with communities to provide essential items to those severely affected. Donate toward the Penny Appeal Hardship Fund today and assist us in caring for families for a 3-month period with essentials and assistance to small businesses affected by the devastating effects of the unrest. Help us help our city. www.pennyappeal.org.za or call 031 11 00 573. Penny Appeal. Small change, big difference.
What makes Randery Jewelers the optimum place for your memorable gift? Is it our range of exclusive, high-end, luxurious jewellery? Or is it our master craftsmanship of all your bespoke jewellery needs? We believe it's because at Randery Jewelers, we know just how to make your special moments last forever. Whether it's for a wedding, anniversary, or just a simple gift to show your love, trust Randery Jewelers to make it special. www.randeryjewelers.com. Make your moments last forever with Randery Jewelers, the family name you can trust.
Osman's Taj Mahal Spice and Rice. For over 80 years, Osman's Taj Mahal have been perfecting the art of the perfect blend of spices, pure, aromatic, and well-seasoned. Spices to tantalize your taste buds. From creative cuisines to gastronomical gourmet goodies. From exotic odors to traditional dishes, Osman's Taj Mahal have remained synonymous with quality spices and condiments. Taj Mahal rice, beans, and lentils. Try our range of chili bite mixes, rose and ilachi syrup, our quick and easy
Tim, let's do a quick test if you can hear me.
Right, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yes, I can. Fantastic.
To receive, advise, and share with you the current ongoing campaigns and projects that you have been supporting for the last 35 years. Visit us at 797 Yansmats Highway, Sherwood, or call 031 207 5676. Africa Muslims Agency, inspiring the spirit of giving.
Rejuvenating media day by day. This is Salam Media.
Welcome back. You are listening to the Mid-Morning Talk on Salam Media, and we do apologize for the technical difficulties that we just experienced, but it comes with such mediums. Unfortunately, there is not much that we can do to avoid them. Anyway, still with me is Tim Neary, a nature conservationist, talking about Arbor Day and Arbor Week, as it is Arbor Week in South Africa, being the 1st of September. Tim, thank you for staying on the line, and before the break, you were about to explain to us what is forestry, indigenous forests, metropolitan forests, as well as a commercial forest, and how do they differ?
Right. Indigenous forests, they are our natural forests that we would find. The Knysna forests, for example, are indigenous. They'll usually be filled with trees that are endemic to the area. And in South Africa, we no longer harvest from the indigenous forests. Well, we don't harvest like we used to. There is a certain amount of timber that is harvested under license. Then we've got our urban forests. Our urban forests are what we see in Johannesburg, Pretoria, any town, in fact. It's those trees that are in the street line. It's the trees that you plant in your garden. And most probably, it's one of the largest forests in the world. It's one of the largest game reserves in many ways, is our urban forest. Then we have commercial forestry, and that differs between South Africa and many other parts of the world. In many other parts of the world, you'll see in America where they use the great redwoods, etc. They harvest from their indigenous forests. They do plant as well, but they harvest from their indigenous forests mainly. Now, in South Africa, we plant predominantly two types of trees, depending on whether it is used for our timber consumption or our paper pulp industry. And of course, remember that trees are in South Africa, paper is a small percentage of what they use. Look around you, your televisions, your smartphone screen, your baby's nappies, cigarette butts, much of our false leathers today, those are all come from gum trees. And these forests are man-planted. We've got a certain number of them only in South Africa. It's not a growing amount of area like we see in some other parts of the world. They are under water license. They're very well managed from that point. And these forests are planted on a cyclic basis. So in South Africa, on average, somebody like Sappi will plant about 1 million trees a day. That's round about what they're planting into those areas that are going to be harvested over 8, 12, 15 years, depending on what the period is. So that is that is the difference that we have. And also in our natural forests, 100% of the forest predominantly is utilized as a conservation area. Commercial forestry changed over time, and there's about 30% of Sappi, 34% of Sappi's lands that are managed purely for conservation reasons, but they now manage the whole forest, because you find that many animals take refuge in the forest in times of danger. Animals tend not to worry whether it's a commercial forest or not, and that's the difference that we see. So our undergrowth, our management of alien vegetation, bugweed, etc., is far greater in those areas. And that's one of the other things we talk about quite a lot when we are talking about our forestry, is our invasive species. And many of the invasive species is because we've messed with the landscape, and they are pioneer species. They tend to come into degraded landscapes, and that's how we set it up. And of course, you alluded to Arbor Week. Not really. We talk about Arbor Year. Every day is some day that you can plant a tree in your local park or wherever you want to. Even a little bonsai in your house, in your flat. That's also kind of cool.
Mm-hmm. Right. So I think in the past few years, we have seen a lot more buildings being established, So how does that contribute, or does it take away from what we're trying to achieve by building more trees, etc.?
I think, look, a lot of the buildings where we are utilizing, where people utilize wood in the buildings, and in many places like Europe, for example, they're going back as far as 4 or 5 stories of timber, 4 or 5 stories high of pure timber, because it's a renewable resource. And that's one of the most important things. We're not taking out we're not mining out, for example, stone. We're not mining out vast quantities of cement, stone, etc. So timber is really reusable. So yeah, I think our bigger problem more around the ever-increasing urban landscape is what we're doing to water runoff. That's far more important. Whereas we're taking, if you look at your high density population areas, your flatlands, even your townhouse populations, they tend to have very little ground where water can absorb into the ground, and they tend to have a vast amount of runoff. And that's why, in fact, in many ways, we see so much flooding and flash flooding that we have as issues today. It's purely because the water runs off into channels. It's then pushed down into a small river area. And there's a vast quantity of water. Instead of being absorbed through a wetland as it would go down to the river, all that water is ending up stormwater drains or else just flushing into the river. And we have those huge floods, or those quick high density floods, which is an issue to us. But yeah, trees again, we've got to be very careful that we don't get, I think, could one say, almost xenophobic about trees, where you want to get rid of a tree because it's not a species in your garden or it's not a species to the area. We'd have to be really careful about how we say that. In our traditional reserve areas, in protected areas, we're very careful that we don't plant anything that is alien to that area. But of course, with the ever-changing landscape brought about by climate change, we do see that what grew at one stage in one area, it now might become too hot, too dry, too wet, whatever the situation is, and we may see a die down of those trees, and we may see them moving back up again into a different area. So there's a lot of science that goes into it, but don't get too bogged down by the science. Start to enjoy it for what it brings to you. Don't plant a tree in your garden because you're doing your bit for the planet. Plant it because you like it, because it's beautiful, because you like the blossoms that come on it. You like what it does for bees. You love the bugs that come into there. You like the birds that come and visit your tree, or the bird feeders that you hang off your tree. So look at your tree as something that beautifies your area and makes you happy. That's the more important thing. You can get, it's all about what it does for you. Then what it does for the planet is absolutely wonderful. But don't feel that it's your debt to the planet. Rather start to enjoy nature around you. It's far more important.
All right. Speaking about enjoying nature, so what can we all do to conserve the planet? All right, we're not trying to save the planet or do our bit,
We're trying to save ourselves.
what can we do to save ourselves and still have clean, fresh air?
I think the most important thing is to look at our lifestyles. We have a very frenetic lifestyle. We tend to want a house that's got 5 toilets. We want all the good things in life. Maybe we need to dumb it down a little bit and start to still have a great quality of life, but start to enjoy that more around us. If the shop is 200 meters down the road, either go by bicycle or drive or walk to the shop. Do you need to drive? Do you need to we get into that cycle where we go to the shop and we buy yet another plastic bag or another set of containers? And that's a wonderful one. Packaging is one of our biggest issues on the planet. Start to say, to talk to your local store and say to them, guys, the package that you give me with 2 lemons in it, and you could fit a half of, a whole cabbage in there. Start to talk about what you're using. What is your usage? And, I go back to, I'm in my mid 60s, and I go back to my parents who were in the Second World War. And after the Second World War, you don't have to talk to anybody of that sort of age about conservation and conserving stuff around you. They knew to wash plastic bags to go and get the meat on a Thursday, if that's what they were doing. They recycled tins. They were great at recycling. And I think that's yet another issue that we do have in our world is recycling is very difficult for us. We don't have the infrastructure. We don't have the mindset. And of course, packaging and the laws around packaging and requirements make it even more difficult. And, a couple of years ago in Johannesburg, we had a strike. I think it went on for about 2 or 3 months. And isn't it amazing how people, their big wheelie bins, in 3 weeks, they were putting maybe a small amount into the bottom of the wheelie bin. Well, we're back to using 2 or 3 wheelie bins per house to get rid of the garbage that we have and those plastics that we bring back from the shopping center every day. Yeah, I think the most important thing is look at your lifestyle. When you are in your house, we talk about Eskom and we talk about the issues. Do you need all the lights on? Or could you just use the lights that you want to? Water is one of our biggest and most important things in our country. Where does most of our water go? Our clean water into your gardens, down the drain, when you're cleaning your teeth. I know a number of people who don't put their water in a little cup, clean their teeth, swill it out from the cup, and put it back again. Things are too easy. And maybe that's one of the issues that we do need to address over time. And it's not saying that we've got to make our lives difficult. We've just got to be a little bit more responsible about what we do. And I think that's the word. Common sense and responsibility really solves an awful lot of problems on the planet.
And well, we're always wondering about why the water bill is so high, why the electricity bill is so high, but we don't go back to see what we're actually doing to contribute to our own a high water and electricity bill. So there's so much that we still need to talk about, and we have to go back to the drawing board. We've been taught these things over time, but yeah, we become irresponsible, as you've mentioned. But Tim, thank you so much for your time and for sharing that knowledge with us. I hope we've gained a little bit of a different perspective into Arbor Day and Arbor Week and Arbor Year.
Absolutely. It's an absolute pleasure anytime, guys. And as I say, just use common sense and enjoy yourself. Look to life as not being as serious as we make it.
Right. Thank you and have a wonderful day. Bye bye.
Cheers now.
Tim Neary, a nature conservationist from CSI, taking us through Arbor Day. And as Tim said, it's not just Arbor Day or Arbor Week, it's Arbor Year. So let us all do our bit for ourselves. We're not trying to save the planet. Remember that the planet was here before us, and it's probably going to be here after us as well. When we die today, when we die tomorrow, we're going to get buried. And guess what? The planet continues. Everything else continues and goes on without us, and whether we like it or not. So use common sense for yourself and for those around you, and also teach your children this as well. It's children learn through